Welcome back, you filthy exiles. So, obviously the patch 020 is coming out today for Path of Exile 2. Now, they are, and rightfully so, getting lit up. Now, obviously, this is one of those I told you so scenarios. But, and I thought of this before I get into the build guide. And obviously, I'm actually having fun, because I was prepared for this before I sat down and stepped into the league. I had a good idea that they were going to double down, because it was sort of like, this is just what they do. And, you know, I'd put up a number of videos for the last few months basically outlining this, and obviously a lot of people were like, yeah, they were like, no, don't believe you, you know, yada, yada, yada. And then of today, exactly what I'd coined out in a number of videos and a number of other creators did, GGG pulled what they did out. So essentially there's a hotfix that they're applying, hotfix 6, and they had phantom buffed all of the enemy HP across the board. Now, they say non-unique enemies. I actually think they need to just revert it back to what it was in 010 or 01 whatever patch iteration, and leave it alone and stop playing games with, you know, trying to experiment with players. People will say it's early access. It's a ridiculous comment to make it this stage. It's been out for like 4 to 5 months now, or whatever it is. Enough is enough. Like, the 010 was like the pitch average of where the HPs were. Essentially, I've done the first 3 acts with this build, and this build, like, face tanks hard. Like, and what's really funny is they actually didn't rescale the Trials of Chaos, because it was actually really easy to ascend in the second Trial of Chaos with this build, which indicates to me this build would have been really strong if it was the last, like, league. And it is really strong because it's super tanky, and we're obviously using the Smith of Kitava, or the Spear of Kitava, and Explosive Spear. But yeah, they did not need to touch the minion defenses or the enemy defenses, HP, any of that stuff, and for some reason they decided to, and it's just made the game absolutely untenable and boring for most players coming in, including player counts severely down from a standard PoE1 league, at least in the Steam chart numbers as well. So that's really disappointing. I hope they take notes from the feedback, because they are getting lit up like nothing else. But we're not going to worry about that in this video. I just thought I'd cover off on a really quick cover off on it. Let's get into the Spear of Kitava build update for day 1. We're in Act 4, blasting through pretty efficiently. We're going to do this build guide a little differently than what I've done in the past. I've got a Mobalytics working guide up as well. The POB is also going to be in the description, so if you want to check it out. The good thing about it is we are face tanking everything. It does not do the most amount of damage, but you'll live to tell the, you know, story another day. By start Act 4, I've done my Chaos Trial, so I've done 2 Ascendancies up already. So it's handled that pretty well. It's done Trial of Second the first time around, and then Chaos Trial. And I'm pretty confident this will make it through the end game, no sweat. And once we figure out how to get the explosions going bigger and more sustain on frenzy charges, should be a hell of a lot of fun. And also, it's really good when you can face tank bosses and walk away laughing. So anyway, let's get into the build and talk about the build. Okay, so the basic idea for this build is to run Explosive Spear, and then we are then using that Explosive Spear to blow stuff up. Pretty simple stuff. But the difference here is we're using the warrior, in particular the Smith of Kitava. The reason why we're using Smith of Kitava is because it's incredibly strong, and I just wanted to face tank stuff, and I was right to make that decision, because guess what? Yeah. Now, the way that we enable more damage out of the Explosive Spears is we use Rapid Assault with Martial Tempo and Pin, and then as we then accumulate Pin, we then synergize that with Combat Frenzy, which allows us to generate Frenzy Charges, which then allows us to then run Explosive Spear at its maximum capability of being able to explode the spears on impact. This isn't currently very efficient in I guess going into Act 1 in Cruel, but it's working quite well. On bosses, it's a bit iffy because of Pin, but I've got a few things to basically sort out with Pin, and all my setups are just basic from the very start, so I haven't got any 4 links or anything like that in the build, so what you see is very weak compared to where it will go. We then also use Herald of Ash, which got buffed in the recent patch as well, to just do a lot more AoE damage, which is pretty satisfying. And also Profusion with Combat Frenzy, so we can generate more than one charge from our Combat Frenzy. And then basically we just run some Shockwave Totems, things like that, Whirling Slash as well, with Unyielding and Encumbrance to basically just give us some defense. That's basically the gist. When you're leveling this up as well, you just run Explosive Spear with Overabundance, and this will let you run 2 spears that you can blow up simultaneously. This got me through Act 1 and 2 pretty easily. The biggest thing about this, if you're starting from level 1, is the spear needs to be a good spear. You need to keep leveling your spear up consistently, otherwise you're going to fall behind and the build's going to feel absolutely horrific. And I did hit some bottlenecks in Act 1. For Jumanra, I did Jumanra in Act 2 straight away, you know, pretty easily. The problem is it took literally 10 bajillion years to do it after the patch, but I was able to tank him pretty easily. Basically, you're looking for a minimum of like 30 to 40 HP regeneration, max capping lightning res to take on Jumanra in Act 2, and you should be fine. Geonor, I died a few times too. I didn't have enough cold res at the time, and you need like a minimum of 15% movement speed, and that'll make that a hell of a lot easier. But that's the basic gist of the build, so let's get into the gear configurations. Okay, so for gear setups, basically my helm, I'm running just a standard helm. I just got a decent high armor helm with some evasion. Amulet, whatever I had, I just needed dexterity and intelligence, and I managed to accumulate that on my amulet, which was really useful. But I do need to regal this and get a better amulet. Now, the biggest thing here is making sure that you have the right spear. In my case, I managed to get one with a really good damage roll. This spear is a little lower level as well. The other big problem with the build is you will need a lot of dexterity, and so what you'll notice is in my pathing tree, I have quite a number of points of just dexterity to balance that. The mistake I made early on is I didn't allocate dexterity early on in my tree, and you really do need to do that so that you can get to the right amount of dex. Currently, I have 111 dex, so I can almost run all skills, and then 140 strength because I do spec down into beef, but we'll talk about that after. Now, the other thing to bear in mind is a decent shield with increased block chance. The reason why we want to have this is because we do run this node down here called Lay Siege. So we get 1% increased damage per 1% chance to block. So, pardon me, the more block chance we have, we get 1% damage per that percentage chance to block, which increases our damage as well. So that all accumulates to your explode damage. Now, chest piece is a really interesting one. We are running the Ascendancy for the Smith of Kitava, which means we're running Smith's Masterworks. Now, what that means is we can no longer use a standard piece of body armor, but I did find something really cool. So I actually had a piece of normal body armor that rolled corrupted from the Trial of Chaos. Just so happened to have 18% Chaos res. I got really lucky. And because of this, basically it meant that I could stack on my leather bindings and my tantalum alloy, which gave me 75% fire res and 5% maximum life per second regeneration. And then I would have 18% chaos resistance as my corrupted implicit. So note to yourself, if you are doing a build like this, corrupt your armor that you're going to use on your chest, so you get more attributes to it. That's going to make it a hell of a lot better. If possible, also, you do get the benefits of the sockets in the armor. So socket it up, then corrupt it, and then you can do whatever you want. And you can keep changing the sockets out at any point in time with whatever runes, even though you've corrupted as well. That's just something to bear in mind with this type of setup. Now, ring-wise, you're just going for attributes or anything else, and damage wherever you can find it. I did get life regeneration on mine because I was really lucky, and mana regeneration, which I do need. But this build isn't really like mana hungry, so you don't really need to worry about mana sustain too much at this stage of the game. Now, gloves, just any gloves with a lot of life at the end of the day. Same with belt, a lot of life, strength stacking. You do want at least 10% movement, ideally 15% movement, and as much life and regeneration as you can get on your boots. Now, flask-wise, I've just got whatever flasks I've dropped and a staunching charm to deal with bleeding. The reason why I did this is because the boss that spawns in the Trial of Chaos applies bleed. This was really useful, and it was also self-regenerating as well, so I'd get charges every 0.2 charges per second, which meant that essentially I could, sustain taking bleed damage and just tank my way through it because I regenerate currently at 75 life regeneration per second with nearly 1200 HP, 63% block, and 29% armor, and I'm pretty well, like, almost capped on all my resistances too. You know, just got cold and chaos to cap now, but the smith is just so powerful in this respect. But that's basically it for the you know, the primary setup of all the equipment. Now, as far as the gem setup, so I don't really use Raised Shield. I did have to use Spear Stab initially, because there was a glitch with Rapid Assault, which would crash the whole instance when you used it with Explosive Spear. Spear throws are relevant as well, so we get into the skills I use. So I use Rapid Assault, and I use Martial Tempo and Pin. Now, you need Pin if you're going to run your Combat Frenzy, but we'll talk about that very shortly when we get down there. So you do need to get Pin onto this as well, and it also just provides an extra ability to lock down enemies. Now, the thing about Rapid Assault that makes it really cool is that basically it allows you to stick spears into an enemy, and now you then can blow those spears up using Explosive Spear, and then basically, you know, you do a ton of damage that way. Now, the big advantage here too with this is essentially, this is really cool. This skill, it's really fast. It's really good at proccing damage, and it's really good at generating frenzy charges, but you do need to be quite tanky to be able to use it, and so that's obviously why I'm using it. Now, the next skill I'm using is Explosive Spear, and then we're using Primal Armament, and we're using Expedite. Now, originally when I was leveling this, I didn't use Primal Armament. I used Overabundance, so I could have 2 spears that could blow up simultaneously and cause more damage. But now that's not a big issue, and Expedite just makes it blow up so much quicker, so it's definitely worth running. Then my first aura that I got in not Grellwood, I think maybe Grellwood, was Herald of Ash, and then I basically just used Magnified Effect at this at this stage. Now, I do have Whirling Slash as another setup, and this basically just has Unyielding, so I get 8 damage taken is returned back to me based on when I'm attacking within the Unyielding, and when the Unyielding's attacking. This is just to sustain, like, you could also use the Armor or Evasion support gems as well for this, so it doesn't really matter too much. And then Encumbrance as well, so that it slows enemies down just a touch more. I do have Shockwave Totems with Overabundance, so I can cast 2 of them at the same time. And this is just, you know, you may need it. I needed it to take down the Act 3 boss because it just don't do enough damage. Nobody does at the moment because they totally overtuned all the campaign bosses to a ridiculous level. Now, you will need Combat Frenzy. We have to generate Frenzy Charges somehow, and this is the most efficient way to do it. So gain a Frenzy Charge when you freeze, electrocute, or pin an enemy, and obviously we pin enemies using Rapid Assault with the support gem, or a support gem of Pin. So we're basically pinning enemies as we assault enemies moving forward, so we can generate Combat Frenzy Charges, which allows us to explode our Explosive Spear, because we have a Frenzy Charge level explosion in there as well that does more damage. Now, beyond that, I also use Profusion, and this is one of the new gems, I believe, that support skills have 50% chance to grant an additional charge. So you usually get about 2 frenzy charges, so you can throw 2 exploding spears, and then a third one you stick in the ground, so you do a lot more damage. Now, as a mobility skill, I have Thunderous Leap. Thunderous Leap actually has a ridiculous amount of damage at the base level, and I wouldn't mind doing a build with this, and maybe, like, I don't know what else I could use with this. But yeah, it'd be really cool to have a play with this if you were really keen to do something different. That's it for the skill setups though. Like, for now, that was working for me, and obviously I need to get to 4 link status and stuff like that, but this is doing the job at current. So as far as the Atlas tree goes, there's a few things to keep in mind here, right? And by the way, this will all be in Mobalytics link below, and it'll also be a POB below, depending on which one you use. I'll be updating Mobalytics guide as I go as well. So basically, Ascendancies, first of all, we get Smith's Masterwork first, and we get Leather Bindings, and we get Tantalum Alloy. And the reason why is that regeneration is ridiculous, and that amount of fire res is also ridiculous. And we get that because we'll then later synergize with things like Unnatural Resilience, and we'll probably build up further into, Prism Guard and stuff like that too. But anyway, for now, this works. So, as we level up, basically the focus is to pick up your Dex node straight away, and you're going to start in the Armor node here. Now, don't worry too much about this. It doesn't really matter. Everything is really hard to kill now because of the changes, so it makes no difference what you do. I wouldn't recommend getting the damage nodes early on because you need to be able to survive the onslaught that's going to come your way. So then we come down, we pick up Defender's Resolve, and we move into Mass Hysteria. This gives us a good amount of attack speed. and we go straight down and we pick up Lay Siege, and this gives us a ton of defense early on. Then we pick up Armor Breaker, and we're eventually going to scale into Armor Break. This just gave me a little bit more damage to the build. Now, you could get backup plan or something like that, but you don't really need to. Then we're going to go back through, pick up the attribute points into Unstoppable Barrier. Then we'll come down and grab Beef, Vigilance. We want Unbending. We want Crushing Verdict. And to be honest with you, you could leave off these nodes first and just go straight to Crushing Verdict because it's 50% increased attack damage, and that scales with Explosive Spear. Then we come down, we grab our Brute Strength node, and then we're just going to travel down and basically pick up all these nodes down up into Smoke Inhalation, which is going to give us 15% fire penetration. That's when our damage is going to start popping off. For now, this is working for me. Now, I do have a plan to basically use these Finality nodes down here. I have a little devious plot. I think they're going to be OP with a new item that's been added to the game, and I hope it's not going to be an expensive item and a 1C item, a 1X item, because, yeah, that'd be really good. But, yeah, if you want copies of this POB and everything, this will all be in the description below. Have at, and, yeah, that's basically it. Anyway, I thought I'd do a really quick guide for this. I know people were following along, and they're giving it a go as well. And also, I had this actually drop in Act 1, which was the Chain Sting. So if you want a really good 1X unique that you could buy on the market, obviously people are trying to buy it. This carried me all the way through to the end of Act 2. This was so damn powerful. Anyway, if you've got any questions, put them below. I do have a bit of a plan with this, and I'll put a projected POB as well, but obviously POB is not up to date, so I can't give you a lot of clarity. I'm still figuring out the build. There's a lot of issues that I need to iron out, but for the most, it's very tanky. It's just breezing through. I will be back on stream a little bit later tonight. I'm going to go get some iced coffee and have a shower, and then we're going to do an all-nighter as well. Tomorrow I've got to work, so I won't be on until tomorrow night, but we'll be at maps later tonight anyway in the first day because YOLO. Anyway, I hope you like this video. If you want to see more like this, don't forget to like and sub to the channel, and I will be doing Path of Exile 2 build guides, no matter how difficult the game may be. If I can tank the enemies, and I can with this Ascendancy, then I will be doing that. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time, and have a good one.